But then the next step could be to go into a prescriptive mode, which means you do not even have to have elections anymore, because you can already predict and afterwards you can say, why do we need elections? Because we know what the result will be.
Human rights are just like heaven and like God. It's just a fictional story that we've invented and spread around. It may be a very nice story, it may be a very attractive story, we want to believe it, but it's just a story. It's not a reality. It is not a biological reality. Just as jellyfish and woodpeckers and ostriches have no rights, Homo sapiens have no rights also. Take a human, cut him open, look inside, you find their blood, and you find the heart and lungs and kidneys, but you don't find there any rights. The only place you find rights is in the fictional stories that humans have invented and spread around. And the same thing is also true in the political field. States and nations are also, like human rights, and like God, and like heaven, they too are just stories.
We have to maintain that trust, and we have to work at maintaining it in a way that we didn't have to do not so long ago. So if you go back really not that long ago, as I say, we owned the news. We were the gatekeepers, and we very much owned the facts as well. If it said it in the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, then that was a fact. Nowadays, people can go to all sorts of different sources for the news, and they're much more questioning about what we're saying. So it's no longer good enough for us just to say, this is what happened, or this is the news. We have to explain almost like explain our working.
It's really my honor to welcome you to the World Economic Forum's 54th annual meeting. With us in Davos are 3,000 participants from over 125 countries, including 350 heads of state and government and ministers. It is crucial that leaders from the public and private sectors are convening at the start of such a consequential year for all of us. Know the most urgent issues that countries and companies face: security, the economy, climate change, cyber, potential new pandemics.
Trust is a fundamental pillar of our social, economic, and political lives.
This week, thousands of the world's most elite executives and politicians jetted off to Davos, Switzerland for the World Economic Forum. Besides January 6th, it's their favorite day of the year. At the party, sociopaths indulge in the highest quality caviar, endless champagne, and psychedelic mushrooms. And where there's drugs, there's sex. Davos gets to the heart of the issue. So, of course, they bring in the guy who invented the internet.
The fossil fuel polluters use a portion of their wealth from digging up dead things from the earth and burning them in ways that destroy the future of humanity. They use some of their wealth to confuse people. I get a little exercised about this because I've watched it for a long time, and it's driven by pure greed. Pure greed. If we deploy electric vehicles, solar, wind, batteries, green hydrogen, and the rest, and we get to true net zero, temperatures on the Earth will stop going up almost immediately.
Gore's worth $200 million, and his greed is infinite because he's making money to save the world. The men who make money building the world, they're greedy. They should go bankrupt and be arrested for climate crimes. How'd Gore get to Davos, by the way? He didn't bicycle. And remember last year he said we'd die from rain bombs? Still waiting on the rain bombs. And once the mascot's finished, it's time to plan the future. Not their futures, your future.
That order seems to not be the order anymore. We are on the way to a new order, so we are between orders.
A new world order. So what will that look like? But the point is you have nothing to be worried about. Well, unless you like to eat.
In most of Asia, rice is still grown with traditional methods, which requires flooding the fields. And when you flood the fields, you basically kill the weeds with water, which sounds good, except it takes huge amounts of water. They basically decompose underwater, and when they do that, they release methane. And so actually rice production is one of the largest producers of methane, which is, you know, many times more toxic in terms of greenhouse gas emissions.
Rice is like the top crop in the world. What are they going to replace it with? Lab rice. Yum. Now, so what are the farmers and the fishermen going to do? Well, they don't need jobs because they'll be arrested.
We have a kind of cultural, very ingrained habit of not taking damage to nature as seriously as we take damage to people and property. You know, if you're campaigning for human rights, at least you know mass murder, torture, all of these things are serious crimes. But there's no equivalent in the environmental space. With ecocide, what we see is actually what people are trying to do, what businesses are trying to do, is make money, is farm, is fish, is do all of these things that are producing energy and so on. What's missing is the awareness and the conscience around the side effects, around the collateral damage.
Imagine you're taking your son fishing this weekend, got your lines in the water. Next thing you know, you're in handcuffs for ecocide. Those fish have constitutional rights.
Human rights are just like heaven and like God. It's just a fictional story.
And if that doesn't work, we're still not at net zero. You get slapped with a carbon footprint tax.
I would say digital and sustainable need to go hand in hand. And what do I mean? Yeah? There are initiatives like we are driving as industries, Catena X, where we are trying to measure the footprint throughout the value chain. And what would that give us? Yeah? I would have a bottle like this, and I could tell you from the iron ore to the logistics to the glass, what is the carbon footprint of this bottle? And then I could price it. And I could tell you now you are doing good because you now pay 20 cents more, but you are very conscious that you have a green product. Yeah?
No, James Bond villain, no. I have a hunch their products like jets, escorts, and shrooms will be exempt from the carbon footprint tax. So forget about cheap gas, rice, and protein. You're not entitled to that. You're also not entitled to an opinion.
Disinformation is a security threat, and maybe not many noticed, but it was part of the Russian military doctrine that they will start information war, and we are in it now, and disinformation is a very powerful tool. We are focusing on improving of the system where the people will get the facts right. We don't speak about opinions. We are not correcting anyone's opinions or language. Yeah, this is about the facts.
Oh, the old CIA Jedi mind trick. Label everything that gets in your way, like Trump or the truth, as Russia disinformation, which is a national security threat, and so therefore must be destroyed by the all-encompassing power of the national security state. Question the election or the effectiveness of electric cars? Now you're a national security threat. And you're on the list like the parents who raise their voices at school board meetings. So, you know what just would make everything much easier? If we just stop resisting and submit to mind control.
Bringing the kinds of sensors that people have become accustomed to, such as rings and in watches, into everyday devices, but it breaches the final frontier of privacy, that is, what people are thinking and feeling. Initially, what they will be capable of doing is very high-level brain state reading. Things like, are you tired? Are you paying attention? Is your mind wandering? Are you happy or sad? They maybe enable interaction like up, down, left, right.
So slap some sensors on your forehead and let Davos read your thoughts. And if we're angry at Davos, up, down, left, right, Now we're mellow. Don't you see? These are well-intentioned people. The people that brought us the first pandemic are now hard at work preparing for the second.
There are things that are unknown that may happen. And anything happening is a matter of when, not if. And that was when we gave the name Disease X. So Disease X is a placeholder for unknown disease. You may even call COVID as the first Disease X. And it may happen again.
The guy who covered up the Chinese lab leak is getting his ducks in a row for the next Chinese lab leak. We're in good hands. How do I know? Because John Kerry said so.
I am convinced beyond any doubt that because of the decisions being made in the marketplace now, because, I mean, you know as well as I do, even if, you know, I don't want this, obviously, but if you wound up with a different president who was opposed to climate crisis, I got news for you. No one politician anywhere in the world can undo what is happening now. It was the biggest transformation in the economies of the world in all of human history.
Did John Kerry just say saving the world is a business opportunity? So if Kerry's wrong and the world doesn't need saving, is it still a business opportunity? But if you say Kerry might be wrong, that's disinformation because it threatens his business opportunity, don't you see? So you either shut your mouth, don't ask any questions, or the FBI is going to have a word. Why would we even doubt Kerry, even if he got his facts wrong? Kerry's a man with a facelift who married a ketchup heiress. He's got it figured out. He must know how to improve our lives. He improved his. Nah. Kerry's improving his life at the expense of yours. This is about extracting humanity from the human race. This is about wresting control of the land, sea, and air away from you so they can make you dependent on their food grown in their labs, put you in their cars, make you take their drugs, submit to their machines. They're putting the human spirit out of business. And they're right. It's a great business opportunity. It's vulture capitalism. They're preying on our bodies and won't be satisfied until they've picked our carcass clean. We were told the New World Order was just a conspiracy theory. Mind control, disinformation police, food and viruses from a lab. So prime time's now decided. Next year, we're taking the show to Davos. We have to see this thing in person.
We must rebuild trust, and that's actually the theme of our meeting. We have to rebuild trust.
Can you rebuild what just isn't there and never was? I mean, at first glance, it's truly laughable, contemptible, outrageous, creepy how out of touch they seem to be, creepy how arrogant they seem to remain in spite of everything.
Rebuilding trust. This is not a time for conflicts or polarization. This is a time to build trust.
In conclusion, trust first, embody trusteeship to rebuild trust by exercising our trusteeship. Thank you.
So essentially, it's just bullshit.
One thing that Davos, you might say, and the people come here stand up for, is liberal democracy.
It's laughable that you would, or anyone would describe Davos as protecting liberal democracy. And if I may, I will be candid and say that the agenda that every single member of the administration needs to have is to compile a list of everything that's ever been proposed at the World Economic Forum and object all of them wholesale.
Good news is the elite across the world trust each other more and more. So we can come together and design and do beautiful things together. The bad news is that in every single country they were polling, the majority of people trusted that elite less. So we can lead, but if people aren't following, we're not going to get to where we want to go.